In this second episode of the Reimagining Plants series, I'll be going to Photoshop all night plants that can be obtained from the first Plants vs Zombies game. So here we have Puff-shroom, which is the first night plant that you can start with. So let's first trace the shape of the stem, and then all we need is a texture. I'm just gonna warp the texture around the stem so it will look a little believable. And now onto the facial features. So I'm just gonna start with the mouth first. So what we're going to do is just trace the hole on his mouth, and that's all we need to do. And for the eyes, so we're just going to do the same with the mouth, where we're going to trace the shape of the eyes and then do some shading. There we go. Now all we need is some shading on the stem, and just like that. We can now proceed to the cap. So we're just going to do the same thing like we did on the stem, where we'll be going to trace the shape and then putting some texture onto it. And there we go. Now we have is Sun-shroom. So we're just going to do the same thing we did to Puff-shroom last time. So we're just going to trace the shape of the stem first. Then we need is some texture, and there we go. And now for some facial features, and then some shading action. Now all we need is to make the cap just like we did with Puff-shroom. We're just going to trace the shape, then put some texture on it and shade. That's all. So what I'm planning to do here with the pattern thing is to make them pop out so they can have some depth, just like this. And there we go. So here we have Fume-shroom, the third plant that you can obtain in the night stage. So we're just going to do the same thing we did on the other plants, which we're going to trace the shape of the stem, and then some texture, and then some facial features. There we go. Now all we need to do is just to make the cap, and then we're done. Now just tracing the shape of the cap, and then just warping the texture around the cap, and then do some shading, and then I'm just gonna trace the pattern, and there we go. So now we have Gravebuster here. According to my research, that Gravebuster is based on that he is a tree bark. So based on that, we'll be going to use this texture for Gravebuster. There we go. Now all we need is some shading. So what I'm going to do on shading the bottom part is to do this. So we're just going to make some sort of a 3D effect. Now for the eyes, I'm just gonna trace it, and that's all we need to do. There we go. And now all we need is do some shading action. Now the next thing we're going to do is the vines acting as Gravebuster's hair. So we're just going to trace the shape of the vines, then some texture action, and then some shading. Then we're just going to do the same thing but for the leaves. There we go. So the next plant I'm going to be making is Hypno-shroom. The process of what I'm making is getting repetitive, so I'm just going to do a spirited type commentary of the remaining plants because there's not really interesting going on here. So yeah. So here I'm trying to shade the eyes of Hypno-shroom, which it didn't really work out. So what I did instead is just making the eyes glow. So for the colorful thingamajig on Hypno-shroom's cap is just a bubble texture I found online, and then what I did next is trying to replicate the colors of the original Hypno-shroom, so it's more accurate to the original version. So next is Fume-shroom. So yeah, it's just a repeating process of doing some tracing the shape, then paste the texture, and then some shading. So for the next plant is Ice-shroom. So this mushroom is an interesting one to edit because he is mainly made of ice, obviously, as you can see from the head and to the stem. So next is Doom-shroom. I think there's really nothing to talk about